All right, so get this. We're diving deep into Dune today.
Frank Herbert's classic.
Yeah, exactly. But not just for like a book club thing or whatever.
Right.
We're looking at it through the lens of crypto and AI.
Oh, wow.
All thanks to Cameron Winklevoss.
You mean that Winklevoss?
Yeah, that one, the tech guy.
The Bitcoin billionaire.
Yeah, him. He seems to see some like serious connection between this like super old sci-fi book and the future of all this tech stuff.
Yeah. Well, he's not wrong.
It's definitely got me curious. I mean, I always loved Dune. I thought it was an awesome book.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
But to think it could tell us something about crypto, I gotta know more.
Well, okay, let's start with the basics for anyone who hasn't read it.
Okay.
So Dune takes place on this like crazy desert planet, Argas. And it's the only place in the universe where you can find this thing called spice melange.
Spice melange.
Yeah, basically it's like the oil of that universe.
Really?
Yeah, it's super important for space travel. It can make you live longer. It's like the key to everything.
Wow.
So whoever controls the spice controls everything, pretty much.
Okay, so we've got this like essential resource that's in limited supply. I'm already seeing how that connects to cryptocurrency, like with Bitcoin and how there's only a certain amount of it.
Exactly. Winklevoss is really into that scarcity angle. He thinks it's like the same idea behind crypto where the value comes from how rare it is.
Makes sense.
But it goes deeper than that. Dune also talks about decentralized power structures, mostly through the Fremen. They're like the native people of Arrakis.
Okay.
And they don't follow the normal power structures. You know, like they're not controlled by some big government or anything. It's kind of like the idea behind decentralized finance, which is something Winklevoss is a big fan of.
Okay, so for those of us who aren't like experts in crypto,
right.
What does decentralized finance actually mean?
So basically, it's a system that's trying to get rid of middlemen like banks and governments.
No banks.
Yeah. So it's like peer-to-peer lending, trading, all that kind of financial stuff. But it's all run by blockchain technology.
Ah, blockchain.
The backbone of crypto.
Gotcha. It makes sense that Winklevoss would be into that since he made his fortune in crypto.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's interesting to think about the Fremen and how they're like super independent, always fighting for their freedom.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the same spirit behind the whole decentralized finance movement.
There's definitely a big theme of adaptation in Dune. You know, all the characters have to keep adjusting to survive the desert and all the political stuff.
Right.
Seems like that could be a good lesson for dealing with the crypto world.
Oh, totally. Things change so fast in crypto. You got to be able to adapt.
Yeah.
Volatile.
And one of the chapters Winklevoss talked about was the Duke of Arrakis. It's all about Paul Atreides' father, Duke Leto, and how hard it is to rule this crazy planet.
Makes sense.
Like every decision he makes, every alliance he forms, every enemy he makes, it's all happening in this high-stakes environment, kind of like the crypto market.
Exactly. One wrong move, and you could lose everything.
So it's like the same challenges.
Yeah, navigating the crazy landscape of Arrakis is like trying to survive in the crypto world.
You could get eaten by a sandworm or lose all your Bitcoin.
Pretty much. But it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving. You know?
Okay.
Like Duke Leto, he was a great leader. He could see threats coming, and he knew how to change his plans when things went wrong. Anyone trying to make it in crypto could learn a lot from him.
So you're saying there are leadership lessons in Dune?
Definitely, but there's another chapter Winklevoss mentioned that's just as important.
Okay, what's that?
The Prophet.
Now, this is where it gets interesting to me. Paul Atreides, the main character, can see the future, right?
Yeah, he has these visions.
But how does that connect to crypto? Are we talking about market predictions?
Not really. It's more about understanding how everything is connected.
Okay.
Like how one choice can lead to a whole bunch of other things. It's about cause and effect, basically.
Gotcha.
Paul's prescience is like a burden.
Yeah.
You know, he has this responsibility to use his visions wisely. And in a way, that's what we're trying to do with data analysis and AI today.
Oh, I see. So we're using data to figure out trends and risks and opportunities.
Exactly.
Just like Paul uses his prescience to make decisions in Dune.
Precisely. It's not about seeing the future perfectly, but about getting a better understanding of what's going on so you can make smarter choices.
That makes sense. And, you know, we're seeing all these new AI trading tools popping up.
Yeah. Algorithms that can analyze market data and try to predict what's going to happen.
It's almost like they're modern-day mentats.
Like those human computers from Dune.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty cool. But unlike mentats who just use logic and reasoning,
Right.
we have to think about the ethics of AI. Like, how do we make sure these tools are used for good? How do we avoid unintended consequences? It seems like Winklevoss sees Dune as a warning as much as inspiration.
I can see that Dune isn't just about the technology itself, it's about the people who use it and the choices they make. It's a good reminder that even with all this advanced tech, the human element is still the most important part.
Could have said it better myself. And that brings us to the real world. How is Winklevoss using these Dune lessons in his own businesses?
That's a great question, and that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Dune.
It's wild how this book still has so much to say about crypto and AI, even though it was written so long ago.
I know, right? It's like Frank Herbert was a time traveler.
Totally. We've been talking about how spice is like data and how important it is to have power spread out and not just controlled by a few people.
Yeah, decentralization.
Right, and how we need to be careful with technology and make sure we use it for good.
Responsible innovation.
Exactly. But let's not forget that controlling something as valuable as spice can have some downsides, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. In Dune, it leads to all sorts of problems.
Yeah.
Like huge fights over who gets to be in charge, monopolies, and even wars.
Sounds kind of familiar, right? Like some of the things people worry about with cryptocurrency today.
Yeah, like how a few people end up with most of the wealth and whether it's bad for the environment to mine crypto. And some people even say that because it's decentralized, it's harder to control and could be used for illegal stuff.
It's a bit scary when you think about it.
Well, Dune doesn't sugarcoat things.
Yeah.
It shows us the dark side of power pretty clearly.
Yeah, like with the Harkonnens, they're the bad guys, right?
Yeah, they're brutal. They show what happens when people just want more and more power and don't care who they hurt.
It's a good reminder that technology itself isn't good or evil. It's how people use it that matters.
Exactly. It's a tool, and it all depends on the person holding the tool,
So it's not enough to just build the coolest new crypto exchange or AI or whatever.
Right. It's about using those things the right way ethically.
And that's where the human element comes in, right? Dune is full of characters making tough decisions, facing the consequences of their actions.
That's not just a story about technology. It's a story about us, about human nature.
Which is why it still feels so relevant today, even though we're not fighting giant sandworms or anything.
Right? We might not have those problems, but we've got our own challenges with technology changing so quick.
And constantly having to figure out what's right and wrong.
Like, how do we make sure AI is used for good? How do we prevent algorithms from being biased? How do we balance privacy and security?
So many big questions.
Dune doesn't give us all the answers.
But it makes us think about them.
It pushes us to look at the consequences of our choices as individuals and as a society.
And I think that's what Winklevoss is trying to do by talking about Dune.
He's not just saying, hey, everyone use crypto.
He's saying, let's think about how we use technology in a way that benefits everyone.
Exactly. He's advocating for a more thoughtful and responsible approach to technology.
Which I think is super important.
Totally. We have this incredible power to shape the future.
But we also have a responsibility to use it wisely.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So we've talked about a lot of the big ideas in Dune and how they connect to crypto and AI.
Yeah, like the spice economy, decentralization,
Yeah.
the ethics of technology.
But how about some real-world examples?
Okay.
How is Winklevoss actually putting these ideas into practice?
We'll take a look at Gemini, the crypto exchange. He started with his brother.
Okay.
They're doing some interesting things that seem to line up with everything we've been talking about.
Like what?
For one, they're really focused on following the rules.
Oh, you mean like regulations?
Yeah, exactly. They've been working with regulators to make things clearer for the crypto industry.
That's actually pretty unusual, isn't it?
It is. A lot of crypto companies try to avoid regulation.
It sounds like Winklevoss is trying to build a system that people can trust.
Exactly. And it goes back to what we were saying about Dune and the dangers of unchecked power.
Right.
By working with regulators, Gemini's saying they want to be transparent and accountable.
Makes sense.
It's kind of ironic, though, right?
How so?
Well, a lot of early crypto enthusiasts were attracted to it because they wanted to get away from government control.
Yeah, they wanted a system that was free from interference.
Exactly. But I think the crypto world is changing.
Growing up.
Yeah, as it gets bigger, people are realizing that some rules are necessary.
To keep things stable.
And to protect people.
It's not just about regulations, though, is it?
Right. It's also about creating a culture of ethical behavior.
Gemini has been really vocal about their commitment to security and transparency.
They've taken steps to protect user funds and data, and they've been quick to address any concerns about potential weaknesses in their system.
Trust is so important in finance.
Especially when you're dealing with something as new and complex as blockchain.
It seems like Winklevoss gets that.
Yeah, he understands that the future of crypto depends on people feeling confident that it's safe and reliable.
And this is where those lessons from Dune come back around.
Little circle.
It's not just about the tech itself, it's about the people using it and the choices they make.
It's about making sure technology serves humanity and not the other way around.
I like that, but let's be real. The crypto world is super competitive. Everyone wants to be on top.
It's a tough business for sure.
How do you stay ethical when everyone's trying to win?
That's the challenge, isn't it? But I think it's possible to be both competitive and ethical.
You have to find that balance.
Between going after your goals and thinking about the bigger picture.
Doesn't sound easy.
It's not, but it's worth it because in the end, the success of any technology depends on whether it makes the world a better place.
So are we saying that Winklevoss is like the good guy in the crypto world? The Paul Atreides of cryptocurrency?
I wouldn't say that it's not about labeling people as heroes or villains.
True.
It's about understanding that everyone has a role to play in shaping the future of technology.
And that the choices we make today have big consequences down the road.
That's why it's so important to talk about these things, to consider different viewpoints and to think critically about what we're doing.
It seems like that's exactly what Winklevoss is trying to do by connecting this old sci-fi book to the challenges we face today.
He's using Dune as a way to look at the ethics of technology, the complexities of power, and the importance of responsible innovation.
And that's definitely a conversation worth having. But before we wrap things up,
Yeah.
there's one more piece of the Dune puzzle we haven't really talked about.
What's that?
Prescience. Paul Atreides' ability to see glimpses of the future.
Yeah.
How does that fit into everything we've been discussing about crypto and AI?
Now, that's a fascinating question, and it's one that we'll tackle head-on in the final part of our deep dive.
All right, so we're back, and we've been digging deep into Dune and how it connects to the world of crypto and AI.
It's crazy how much this book still has to say about all this stuff, you know?
Right, like we've been talking about how spice is kind of like data, and how important it is to have power spread out, not just in the hands of a few.
Decentralization.
Yeah, and how we need to be careful with technology and make sure we use it ethically.
Responsible innovation.
Exactly. But there's one thing we haven't talked about much yet. Prescience. You know, Paul Atreides' ability to see the future.
Yeah.
How does that fit into everything we've been discussing about crypto and AI?
What's an interesting question, isn't it? I mean, think about it in Dune. Prescience isn't just about, like, predicting the future perfectly. Right. It's about understanding how everything is connected. You know, like how one decision can lead to a whole bunch of other things.
Cause and effect.
Exactly. And in a way, that's kind of what we're trying to do with data analysis and AI today.
You mean like sifting through mountains of information?
Yeah, exactly. Looking for patterns, trying to figure out what's going to happen next. It's almost like we're building our own limited version of prescience, using algorithms and computers to get insights that we never could have gotten before.
Makes you wonder if data scientists are like the modern day mentets.
You know those human computers from Dune?
Yeah, exactly.
There are definitely some similarities. I mean, mentats were trained to analyze data, assess risks, and give strategic advice, pretty much like what we expect from AI these days.
But there's a big difference, right?
Oh, absolutely. Mentats were still human even with their super brains.
They had emotions, biases, they had to make choices with incomplete information.
Right, and that's where the ethics come in. Just like Paul struggles with the burden of prescience. We have to think carefully about what it means to have so much predictive power.
Like, are we going to use it for good or for bad?
Exactly. How do we avoid creating self-fulfilling prophecies? How do we make sure our decisions are guided by wisdom and not just algorithms?
That's a lot to think about. And honestly, I don't think Dune gives us all the answers.
No, it doesn't.
But it does show us what can happen if we rely too much on predictions, even if they seem accurate.
Remember what happened to Paul. Trying to control the future led to disaster.
Yeah, it's a warning for sure.
Okay.
It reminds us that even with the best intentions, even with all this fancy technology, we can't really predict or control the future.
There's always going to be some uncertainty, some element of free will that makes the future impossible to pin down.
And that's where the human element comes in, right?
Absolutely. It takes human judgment, empathy, creativity to navigate this world that's being shaped by data and algorithms.
We can't just let the machines decide everything for us.
Definitely, we have to find that balance between using technology and remembering that we're still in control.
It's like a tightrope walk.
It is, but it's a walk worth taking because at the end of the day, technology should be about making the world a better place for everyone.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Dune, I want to leave you, our listener, with one final thought.
Okay.
Imagine you're Paul Atreides. You have the ability to see glimpses of the future. What would you do with that power? Would you embrace it or fear it? How would you use it to shape the world around you?
It's a question that goes beyond crypto and AI. It's about human nature, about free will, about what it means to have knowledge.
Dune doesn't give us all the answers, but it does give us a way to think about these things.
Yeah, and it reminds us that even in a world of crazy technology, the biggest questions are still the ones that have always mattered.
Who are we? Where are we going? And what choices will we make along the way?
It's a journey of exploration and self-discovery.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the possibilities. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Dune and its connections to crypto and AI. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.